As you guys are all getting situated and getting in, welcome again. My name is Devin Warble. I work with 3CSN, and today you have found us. We are in the session on how do we help facilitate career exploration in these uncertain times. So to get us started, please do me a favor and just place your name, your email, the college that you're on, and the role that you play in the chat. And we will get started in a moment.
Hi, Devin.
Hey, Adrienne, is that you?
Yes.
So sorry about the delay. We've got a nice group of people. Everyone's getting in. We got about 24 folks here. So we are now cooking with gas, as my dad would say.
Or propane and propane accessories, like they say on King of the Hill.
There you go. We got all the things that we need. Okay. So go ahead, Adrienne. I already said hello and introduced myself to folks. So you could go ahead and get grooving.
Okay. So the main reason why I wanted to bring up this topic, basically the format today, I'm just going to briefly go over some ideas that we had in my district, but I wanted to open up this conversation to a statewide conversation because I would imagine that a lot of people are thinking about and wondering about the same things. I just started thinking about how is it that we're going to inspire students to explore career pathways at a time when the majority of society in the entire world is shut down. It's not all that inspiring, especially if there was a career path they were thinking about going into that is non-existent at the moment, or they're seeing family members and friends that are out of work. It's a time to really stop and reflect about what it is that people want to do with their lives and whether or not the pathways that they're thinking about are what they would consider stable. But I also think that even when it's not a time like this, it's always the case that there's no such thing as a perfectly stable career pathway. So I think a time like right now is a really good moment actually for a lot of students to go back to school if they already were in an industry that was dying. I always give my students the example of, and then actually this is such an old example, they probably don't know what I'm talking about too, but I give them the example of if you were a person that you had a shop that repaired typewriters, right? And then the word processor comes out, what do? Are you gonna retool and learn how to work with that, or are you gonna do an entirely different career path? And then let's say you did retool, you learned how to work with word processors, and now the computer comes out. So you have to always be looking ahead, especially with all of the changes in society in general, whether that's because of technology. I think last year around this time, we were talking a lot about the fourth industrial revolution. We were talking about the gig economy and how many jobs are becoming automated. And now we're talking about a pandemic. So I like to tell my students that it's sort of like a surfer on the ocean. You're riding those waves and you have to try to look out and see what's coming. Is it going to affect your industry that you're working in? And you can try to predict, but really none of us have a crystal ball that can tell a student exactly what it is they're going to be doing with their lives. Or even if they do choose something and they start in that pathway, we have no idea if for one reason or the other, that whole entire line of work will go away. So our students need to learn how to use those ideas of transferable skills and all that kind of stuff. So those are some of the topics that came up. So I actually have a Google document that I'm going to share with everyone in the chat. Feel free to add to it. This is one we started working on, and I'll also share it on the screen in case there's some of you that can't see it. And I'll go over a few of the ideas that we discussed.
And Adrienne, if you could do me a favor, since there's some folks that are outside of the LACCD, can you introduce yourself and tell everyone?
Oh yeah, who I am.
Who is the incredible Adrienne
Who is
Brown?
this that's talking to us right now? So my name is Adrienne Brown. I'm a career counselor at Los Angeles Harbor College. I'm also on the team, the coordination team for Guided Pathways at my campus, and also one of the coordinators at the district level for Guided Pathways. And I've worn lots of different other hats, just like many of us have throughout the years as things change and evolve. But those were the main jobs that I have today now. Okay. So I do career counseling still, and I also teach a career planning class. Second. Get this document going. Here we go. So this is the document that we started working on, and there were some of the ideas we came up with had to do with things that we should always be talking about with students. So some folks were talking about strengths-based versus deficit-based framework, thinking about what current skills students already bring and contribute to their campus and their community, thinking about that gig economy and how people have to balance their less stable career paths with maybe some other things to try to keep income coming in, especially when one avenue might close. Observing the outlook in terms of the economy in other countries. I already mentioned the fourth industrial revolution. That's basically, if you think about, Harbor College is really close to the port of Los Angeles and the port of Long Beach. And a lot of the jobs, very stable jobs that people used to be able to just go over there and get are gone now and are being replaced by machines. So things like that maybe your parents and your grandparents worked in that industry, but now that job opportunity is not available to you. So we talked about, we started getting into not just talking about teaching in the classroom about career exploration, but also just facilitating discussions about career exploration, whether that's in workshop settings or also in the counseling settings. So we were talking about asynchronous versus synchronous practices. Something very important right now, no matter what setting, is just the checking in. So many people are so stressed and just for whatever reason. So that is really important, just to humanize our connections with people as we're so distant and using technology to connect with one another. So the checking in, some of the ideas that folks came up with is normalizing the experience, that it's okay that we're going through all these different changes, normalizing that the economy always does change, whether it's for one reason or the other. And then with the feelings, some ideas that folks shared were highs and lows, where students can share one high, one low, what's going on with their week. There's also a red, yellow, green check-in. That one, a counselor shared that that's a way of letting you know. If green is like, I'm doing well, yellow is I'm having somewhat of an issue, red is like, things are terrible right now, please check in with me directly. We talked about them interviewing the person who they think they want to be. That's definitely something we always recommend, right? The informational interviews. Using trivia questions and polls when we are using these online formats, just to give students different ways to connect and ask questions. And we started getting into talk about outreach a little bit, how to reach students since we're trying to reach them online. So any ideas that folks have to share about creative ways you've been doing that, please do share it with us. So some ideas were email blasts, you can book me, remind, video messages, phone banking. We had a student that was on that first call, and they said they really appreciated that they would get a weekly email update from their dean that would give them all kinds of information. I also heard in another session that there are some campuses that are doing a weekly seminar or webinar, giving updates on what's going on. That kind of stuff helps. We talked about emphasizing even more, if you were not already, online etiquette. Our students need to learn about how to enter a Zoom room, for example, properly, thinking about what's in the background as part of what you're wearing if you're doing a Skype interview, things like that. Or as you've seen in some of the news stories, folks that have accidentally taken their laptops into the bathroom, or they started changing clothes and things like that. people need to be very mindful of online etiquette, especially now that the majority of the earth is working remotely. Let's see. We talked about Zoom versus Cranium Cafe, since those tend to be the two resources that counselors are primarily using. And then I mentioned that I found this document and I want to share it with my students. It's identifying critical infrastructure. So that way they could think about, you can click on that link and see what that's about. Both of these links are about the same thing, just in a different format. I like to give students options in terms of reading. So I'm going to assign both and say, pick one that you want to read about. So they can start thinking about and reflecting while they're experiencing this. Would I want to be on the front lines? Would I want to be a critical infrastructure essential worker doing those kinds of jobs? Or would I want some other kind of work that would give me that work-life balance, allow me to be at home, but I still have income, right? And start learning about what those different careers are. And let's see, there's also these School of Life career crisis prompt cards that I found. So I added that resource there. And then some folks started sharing some technology ideas. If you're using Instagram to connect with students, Linktree is a very good resource because you're only allowed to have one link on your Instagram page, but that link can open up to a page where you have all the different things that you want students to see. We talked about using You Can Book Me for those of you that have not fully transitioned to Cranium Cafe and need an appointment booking tool. Eventbrite is very popular and free to use to organize registration for your workshops if you'd like to use that. We talked about connecting Zoom to Facebook Live if you've got groups of students there. Also Instagram Live, if that's the way that you want to. And then at the end of that conversation, we just went over how to log into the Vision Resource Center to talk to, or to watch the weekly update from the chancellor that they have on COVID. So that was just really a resource that folks asked for on that first call that we did. But now I wanted to open up the discussion larger and see if there's other ideas that folks have. You're all welcome to, I'll paste the link again because I know some people joined in after the first time I pasted it.
I just did it, Adrienne. I just posted it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'd love to hear from folks about what are some other things you're doing in the classroom for your career planning classes, counseling sessions, or workshops specifically on this topic, and trying to keep students encouraged during a time that's probably really challenging for anyone. Anyone that would like to join the conversation, you can raise your hand so you can speak, or you could write in the chat, whatever you'd like.
I just allowed you all to unmute yourselves. So if you were having a problem with that, you're able to unmute yourself now. Just checking some settings in Zoom here. It's always overwhelming.
Has anyone started to hear some different questions from students in these different settings about career exploration since the stay-at-home order and all of that? Someone said they still can't unmute themselves.
Let me go back in. I just saw that. Allow participants. That's okay. Well, hold on. Try it again now. Brandy?
Okay, it's working now.
Yay, sorry about that.
That's okay. Hi, Devin.
Hey there.
Hi. So I'm Brandy. I'm at Southwest College and I'm over the Promise program. And I was going to say that career exploration has been an important component for our incoming each summer bridge that we have for students to take our Counseling 20. So I know there's some people on here that are teaching those classes, but this is really, really important, especially implementing obviously guided pathways, getting them on their path and so forth. And right now it's especially important for them to start thinking about their careers and what exactly it is they want to do. And Adrian, you brought up a good point of, the ones that are going into nursing, do they really want to do that now? We see everything that's going on with the healthcare field, and that's something to think about. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you for that. That makes me think of that idea of begin with the end in mind. If students, and then that's what Guided Pathways is also all about, which I didn't mention. It's all about career exploration. It's all about beginning with the end in mind, giving students a clear direction of something they're aiming towards. Of course, they're always welcome to change that as they learn more about themselves, as they experience classes or internships or work experience, whatever it may be. But if they don't have any aim at all, students tend to flounder. So beginning with the end in mind and making sure for our summer bridge experiences, our freshman year experiences, that we're incorporating career exploration, that's critical. Thank you, Brandy. Kyle Cameron.
So I just wanted to bring up the difficulty of making sure that we have the right labor market information when we speak to students. I'm a career counselor as well. Something that is challenging is, we refer to some of the tools that we normally refer to. They haven't been updated post COVID-19 yet, right? And so, how do we address that? And something that's helped us, and we're still kind of learning, is, we have access to Burning Glass in our institution. And so, we've gone through some training in Burning Glass to take a look at, job posting data that's pretty recent that you can deliver some anecdotal evidence when it comes to what the market demands are short-term and long-term, so that when we say, oh, okay, this is a really healthy area for you to potentially go into, we're not just defaulting to, pre-COVID-19 information that may be really, really outdated, if they're trying to enter into the workforce. That's it.
If you could post a link to that software that you mentioned, that would be great. Or if it's, I'm not sure if it was a website.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat for everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Priya, did you have something?
Yeah, Burning Glass. Thank you for posting it, Devin.
You're welcome.
Thanks for asking me, Adrian. Yes, I did. So I have had quite a few students asking about what it would require for them to change their major from, let's say, English or communications to engineering, and now they're trying to decide what focus they would like to take if they decide to take on engineering. So those conversations have been really interesting, because when I do have them, I do focus them on, well, of course, like Joy said in the chat, where we address how students are feeling now that we are in COVID-19, but to take it one step beyond that and to start asking them, or not necessarily asking them, but allowing them to see how big of an advantage this might be for them moving forward. Because now, for a lot of us who grew up or who experienced like the internet blowing up like it did while we were growing up, a lot of us have tried to figure out how to get everybody else up to speed to see how great this is. But now the opportunity is at their fingertips. So a lot of times we have conversations about how we can take advantage of this opportunity and what the celebration is going to look like as we transition into picking up this opportunity that has in some ways been a downer, but in some ways has also been positive as well.
Thank you for that. That also makes me think about last fall at my campus, they handed out a document that had the top careers, and the #1 career was app developer. And I thought, when I was a community college student and I was sitting in that audience for my freshman, year, smartphones didn't exist, apps didn't exist, and now it's the #1 career. So there's this idea that we have to always think that the future is just, there's no way to predict it fully. So we have to think of that, look at it as an opportunity, like you said, when there's new things, ooh, what opportunities can I have? How can I use what I already know in that field? And all of that. I love that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Hi, everyone. This is Jamie Sanchez, and I am from LA Harper College. So I just wanted to comment that I've had a couple of students that said that they have an idea of what their major is, but not necessarily what to do with it. But then right now with COVID-19, many of them don't feel like there's a support online, pretty much, to support their needs. Because a lot of them have questions, like resumes, cover letters. Yes, right now they might not be hiring, but a lot of them are like, now I have the time to do it. I want to take advantage of that time. 1. 2 would be career is a process. So for the students, COVID-19 has shaken everything that what they knew of their life would be. So now I feel like the students need that foundation for them, or that resource, and have that online presence, and not just be present, but to outreach to them, because we can have all the workshops that we want on Zoom, but if the students are not joining us, so I think it goes back to the outreaching portion of it. How are we going to notify our students that, hey, even though we're not physically on campus, we are still here for you?
Absolutely, Jamie. And sometimes that's a matter of us not even knowing all of the technology that we already have at our disposal that could help do that. Like many of you, I've been exploring all kinds of new things that now that I'm staying at home. And I signed up for this karaoke app, right, where you can sing with other people. And 2 days afterwards, I got this automated message that said, "We're really happy to have you in our community. Welcome. We're glad to that you've joined." Those kind of messages, like what you were just saying, we're still here for you. When and where are we sending those kind of messages to our students, and how can we use technology to help us make sure every student would receive those kind of encouraging things? It's really important to help them still feel like they're part of our campus community. And I will say, and I don't think I mentioned earlier, these are things that we need to do anyway. This is an equity issue for our online students. Our fully online students should always have had access to all of these things. So we need to really take a look at all of our different support services that help students in making these decisions, and how are we making sure that this kind of information, that they can get their questions answered, that there's really informative, excellent websites, that they're able to complete any business process that they would need to do. All of that's all connected for the students to feel supported and connected, and like they can really, that we're supporting them in their journey of figuring out what their goals are at our campuses and also in their careers.
Joy Fisher, do you want to share what you posted in the chat with everybody? She said that she heard On-Campus Career and Job Placement Center has set up workshops in the next few weeks, taking advantage of students being more available. And then she just said her mic doesn't work. So I just read her chat because I thought that was really something good to know. Now I wonder, is that just for the LACCD, Joy, or is that a statewide thing that everyone can experience? I wonder. Oh, LA Harbor specifically. Okay, super helpful. But I imagine other campuses are going to be doing that too, if you all are. So that's great. Thank you for that.
Any other challenges or surprises, whether that's in the classroom, when you've been working one-on-one with students and appointments, or when you facilitated workshops? Keep in mind there's a lot of people in the group that are new to this. Imagine being a new counselor this semester, right? So even if you think that this is something that everyone knows, it is helpful if you share those ideas. Those of you that have been at this for a while, what are the things that you found most effective to help students explore their careers, and how have you been transitioning those activities, tools, and resources into this remote environment?
I think Adrian is frozen. Claudia put something in the chat too. There you go. You're back, Adrian. You got frozen for a second, but you're back. Claudia says that she reaches out to students from CCN Job Board to let them know that you guys are still there, but don't really get responses. Today we had workshops. We had 11 students RSVP, but only one showed up to Zoom. Does everyone know what the CCN Job Board is? Okay.
So that's the College Central Network. It's a tool that a lot of career centers use. You can coordinate workshops through it. You can coordinate job fairs and things like that through it. I think that challenge that you're facing is something that a lot of people are facing. And I'm wondering, how are we using our student workers, or if we have graduate assistants that are campuses, or are we doing any sort of automated reminders? I just think reminders are so important right now. It's been hard for people to know what day of the week it is, right? So of course folks are forgetting about things. So are we still doing those sort of warm reminders where folks can do phone calls to remind folks about things, or are we doing any automated reminders? I'm just wondering about that aspect. This is something I think we could start doing if we haven't been doing that, because there's just so much going on. It's easy to let something slip someone's mind.
I would like to share that, sorry, this is Jamie again. I would like to share that a lot of the students that I've had contact with, because I'm also an adjunct counselor at Glendale Community College. So the difference there at least is that I work with specifically learning communities. So we have a case of students. So what we've been doing for our progress checks is that we have taken it upon ourselves for us to initiate that contact by calling our students. And a lot of the feedback is, I have so much email, I have not even started to check them. The same way we feel overwhelmed with email, like with our inbox of like a whole bunch of different reminders and updates. Now imagine an 18, 19-year-old with that same inbox. They're less likely to sit there and clear it out. So a lot of the ways that we reach out to students is via email, which is great because that's our official way of communication. But I also feel like we have to be very strategic, maybe not, of course, give personal information, but I know something that we've been doing is send them text messages, something very simple, not to overwhelm them, right? But just, hey, we sent you information based on this, please check, right? So we're still giving them the responsibility for them to check their email, but for them to know that we send them some important information. Not only that, but then I know that for Glendale at least, we developed an emergency fund. Like that same week after we went remote, a emergency fund was developed and it was sent out to our students to see how we can help them. And a lot of the needs are honestly, a lot of like parents lost their job, right? So it's been obviously a nationwide thing, but us, even just them doing that, the students felt like, oh, they care about me, right? They understand what I'm going through. So it's just like the perception of our campus for them that, hey, we are here for you.
Any phone calls and text messages are really great tools because yes, that email inbox gets out of control. It's sort of like the actual mailbox in front of your home. It gets to start to get filled with just all kinds of stuff, and it's hard to know what's really important. So if you do use email, it's good if they're consolidated and only one key point person is the one that sends out updates, maybe no more than once a week to students. Because if they're getting an email every day from a different person, they're probably not going to catch things that are really important to them. Any other questions that some of you came into this session with that you want answered that we can use the power of all of these folks across the state to help you answer?
Someone asked, Adrienne, Claudia asked if someone was planning on doing a virtual job fair, which is an interesting idea. And then Norma from SMC said that they are planning one. Does Norma want to share what they're planning?
Hi, I work both at SMC and LA Harper College, and I don't have the details about that. I know we talked about it in our last counselors meeting. The director of the counselor center was in the works of doing something like that. So I'm not sure when it's going to happen or who they're going to use to do the virtual career fair, but I do know that it's going to happen. And let me just double check my text. I had one of my deans text me, and she said that our VIP welcome day is also going to be virtual on a virtual platform. They're trying to figure out how much it's going to cost. So I'm thinking they're going to use the same company that's going to do the career fair. But that's all I know.
Do you know what company that is?
No, I don't.
Yeah. I just attended a USC virtual job fair, and it was so nice and so professionally done through a company called Brazen, but I have a meeting with them to find out how much do they cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm sure if you reach out to Vicki Rothman at SMC's Career Center, she'll be happy to let you know who we're going to use or who we're looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And something to consider if things do have a cost is if we can, especially if something's online, then only serving our local students doesn't really make sense. So those of you that are in multi-campus districts may want to consider, if you find a resource like that that has a fee, maybe each campus in your district could contribute to paying that fee, and then it'll be more cost, not cost as much, and be more likely that you'll be able to have something really nice.
That's a great idea.
Any other questions folks came into the session wanting answered? I'll share one other strategy that a discipline faculty shared with me. Something that you could do if you're teaching an online class is have a discussion there just for sharing resources in your local area that have to do with the current crisis. And then it would just be sort of like a pinned discussion post where people can share different things they found. There's some classes that have found that helpful, so that may be something that you may want to consider for those of you that are teaching. Any other questions, comments, or suggestions? Well, I will just add that there are so many different professional development opportunities being offered through the state currently. And like Claudia mentioned, sometimes one of the best ways to learn about something that you can do with your students is by engaging in those things and experiencing them. seeing what works for you and what doesn't work for you, what you found interesting, if you liked the way something was done. There's so many different sessions from 3CSN, for example. The other day I attended Mindfulness for Educators, and oh man, it was a wonderful way to end my day. It was so great. There's also lots of different things just on how to use these different technology tools and whatnot. So the more that we can sharpen our own tools and our toolboxes, then the better we'll be able to reach our students. So do consider looking at the entire wayfinding series from 3CSN. There are also a lot of webinars being offered through ASCCC and several other organizations. So keep your eyes peeled, even though there's 8 million emails coming through, to see which ones are relevant to your discipline and path, because there's lots of great conversations and collaboration going on in the state.
I'm placing some of these things that Adrian just mentioned here in the chat, links for you to just have at your disposal. So.
And also, if there's a topic that you would like to present about, you can message ask@3csn.org. I know there's a lot of you, and I see these faces. I know you've got a lot of great tools up your belt, but you like to be quiet, you counselors, when we get in large groups.
I actually have a question.
Go ahead.
I teach ASL at Cerritos College, but I reached out the first week that it happened just to check in on my students. So I went through my roster, and I just did a contact all to all of my students. And the first thing I asked was, how were they doing? How are they adjusting, and this, that, and the other. And I think just because I sincerely was concerned about them, I got a lot of interesting feedback. But one of my questions is that for those of the counselors, do you also help them facilitate their unemployment and things like that? Because I have a lot of students that says, you know, I lost my job, but I don't even know where to begin. I know that I'm eligible for unemployment, but I don't even know where to begin. So I was just curious to know if with the counseling, are they also providing that also?
I could chime in on that one. So at Los Angeles Harbor College with EOPS, we haven't been doing like super in-depth counseling around that, but we do have a resource sheet. I'm just explaining to students like different avenues that they can take if they wanted to file unemployment, or at the time, this was when they were having the discussion about the stimulus check right before they had dispersed it. So we included that. So, and other resources that students might be able to look into to see if they could potentially receive help. I think we also included the Angelino card on there at that time. But it depends on the district that you're in, because I know we have one that might apply to our students, but I'm not sure if it might apply to yours. If you leave your email, I can send you what I have.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Sure, not a problem.
I have a question. This is Claudia. Has anyone already conducted workshops via like Zoom?
Hi, Claudia. This is Brandy from Southwest. We started our orientations, so they are on Zoom, and we've set up workshops for Canvas training and PeopleSoft enrollment to register for their classes. We set those up for June, but we have had several, I think 3 weeks now for our orientations, and this is for Promise, so it is a specialized, population, but we did start that.
Okay, I'm wondering, because like I said, we did like an interview skills workshop today. So we had students RSVP ahead of time, but our problem is we don't know how to, we have them RSVP, so then whoever RSVPs, we then send them a link to the Zoom. So I'm wondering if that's the right way to do it, or if we should just put out that link for anybody to come in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I set up a password for our workshop. I mean, for our orientation. So they register that, you know, you have to have the password, just because there's been that Zoom bombing, I guess, going on, where people just dropping in on random sessions. So we do have a password requirement, but yeah, that may work.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think what's the best
Some-
way.
Something else I saw for one of the ASCCC webinars I signed up for, they set up there's something you can click in Zoom that says participants must register. And so I was able to register. So I just had to put my name and my email, and then I got an automated email from Zoom. So that way the link isn't just on the internet where somebody can just pop in. You know, with those, they have those, what are the spiders that crawl the internet looking for links? So it just add that extra step that people have to put their full name. And I don't know if you can add any other questions, but I've seen that for one.
Okay.
I don't know if that might be a way to make it easier so that you're not manually registering students, because I see there's sort of like the drawbacks and the benefits of worrying about being Zoom bombed versus can students just access this if they see the opportunity and just join.
Right. Yeah, we have them RSVP through Google Docs first, and then when we get their info, then we'll send them a link. But then that doesn't give other students an opportunity to join in kind of like at the last minute, I guess. So we're just wondering if we should just put that Zoom link out there, but I don't know.
One strategy, Claudia, could be that you can have it open, but just have them join a waiting room. So that way you can admit the students. For example, if someone joins in late, like, 30 minutes into it, you can decide if you want to admit them or not. And if they are hacking, for example, that Zoom, you can actually kick them out because or place them back in the waiting room.
Right.
So that way you're not limiting them, but yet you still have somewhat control of who joins.
Right. And then we also need to get attendance. So we were thinking, what's the best way to do that? If they RSVP'd ahead of time, we do ask for their student ID numbers. But if they come in at the last minute to join, we were thinking, should we say if they can send us a private chat indicating their student ID numbers? Does anyone have suggestions for that? Is that the best way to do it?
I think it may just depend on how you want to do it and what you feel comfortable with, or it might be if there's any policies at your particular campus. Devin, I know that 3CSN posts their Zoom links on the website. Have you seen any issues so far that you're aware of?
We had a couple of it in the beginning, couple Zoom crashers in the beginning. And now that Zoom has gotten wind of all this stuff, we're now, it's lessened, which is great. So, but I do think that requiring a password is one of the best ways to mitigate it. And also, if you have host privileges, what happened in my session is he was drawing like profanity on our screen, and he was a hacker. He was very well versed, and so I was able to find him, click on his name, and I was able to remove him. And so as a host, it's really important if you guys are doing these Zoom sessions with big groups of people, we don't want to put more barriers up, right, for our students to join in, but it's good to have a co-host, or it's good to have someone else kind of mitigating that kind of stuff if you can. That's just a strategy.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Adrian, it's time.
Although we got started, yes, I was going to say, although we got started a little late, I think we should end on time. Thank you, everyone, so much for sharing your thoughts, your ideas, your questions. I look forward to future conversations with many of you from across the state on these ideas. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you.